My name is John Darsie. I'm a director of business development here at SkyBridge. If you've been on these SALT Bitcoin reviews, you know that by now, but just want to reintroduce myself. We welcome a special guest this week to the SALT Bitcoin review, again, focusing on the news out of China. I think over the last couple of weeks, people have been very focused on Elon Musk and his tweeting about Bitcoin and energy consumption, and the China news, if you can believe it, sort of flew under the radar a little bit last week, but has started to come more into focus in recent days as people break down the implications of China's third crypto crackdown, if you will, following regulations they put in place in 2013 and 2017, and now here in 2021. Just a reminder, we want these to be very interactive, so you can submit your questions at the bottom of the Zoom screen. There's a Q&A box if you're unfamiliar with Zoom, where you can submit your questions. Again, we want this to be very interactive. But joining as our guest today on the SALT Bitcoin review is Winston Ma, a great friend of SALT. He's spoken at SALT before, including in Abu Dhabi in 2019. We're very excited to welcome. He's also been on SALT Talks previously, but we're excited to welcome him for the first time to the SALT Bitcoin review. I'm going to read a little bit about Winston's bio and then allow him to introduce himself as well. But Winston is an investor, an author, and an adjunct professor at NYU, focusing on technology and the digital economy. Prior to joining the faculty at NYU, he was the managing director and head of the North American office for the China Investment Corporation, CIC, which is the sovereign wealth fund of China. He made cross-border digital economy investments, aka the Digital Silk Road, a topic that he's one of the preeminent experts on, and also sought synergies between China and world markets. Prior to working at CIC, he worked at Barclays Capital. He worked at JP Morgan in investment banking and at the law firm Davis Polk and Wardwell. He's also a prolific author. He's the author of several books, including two that he published in 2020. The first one is called Digital War: How China's Tech Power Shapes the Future of AI, Blockchain, and Cyberspace. Anthony Scaramucci, who you guys probably know, wrote the foreword to that book, actually. Would highly recommend that you pick that up. He also wrote another book last year called The Hunt for Unicorns: How Sovereign Funds Are Reshaping Investment in the Digital Economy. So again, he's an expert on all things China, digital economy, as well as the sovereign wealth fund space, having served at CIC previously. He's also authored several other books, including China's Mobile Economy, which he published in 2016, The Digital Economy 2.0, which was published in 2017, The Digital Silk Road in 2018, and Investing in China in 2006. Winston, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you here to break down everything that's going on related to digital currencies and innovation in China. I sort of read a lot of your background there, but if you want to take just 30 seconds or so to introduce yourself to the audience, I think that would be appreciated.
Sure. Thank you, John. You already covered everything. So I just, just summarize that, all my career is about the China-US synergies, right? Cross-border synergies. I was educated both in China and the US. I was a lawyer both in China and New York. And then before I worked at the CIC for global investments, I got to Wall Street training in New York, right? So to me, there's no better place to be, comparing to the tremendous opportunities between the China and US. So I'm glad, really excited to join your event because, SkyBridge, right, as the name suggests, is still building the important bridge between China, US, and everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Winston, you as much as anyone, having lived in both China and the United States, having been educated, having practiced law in both places, you're one of the preeminent experts on cross-border issues between the U.S. and China, and that's why we're always grateful to bring you onto our physical SALT conference platform and also do things with you digitally here in the COVID era. But let's dive right into digital currencies and China. Obviously, the big news that I was talking about earlier, China issued their third crypto crackdown, if you will, last Friday. They basically announced that they were taking the next step beyond just encouraging people to avoid cryptocurrencies and banning certain elements of practice in crypto markets. Was this sort of just a reiteration of prior regulation, or did they take a step further with this new set of regulations, and what were those new regulations?
Great. So we start by saying it is not a simple reiteration of earlier regulation. To me, it is a serious upgrade of crypto regulation in China. First of all, the Friday statement that came from you, right? You just mentioned, right? It is just like a one statement, one sentence statement from the State Council Financial Stability Committee. It says, China will crack down on crypto mining and trading. Yeah, and this Financial Stability Committee is led by Vice Premier Liu He. He, obviously, we're all familiar with his face because he is also the main negotiator for China-U.S. trade war, right? So this statement represents a positioning taken by the highest level financial regulator in China. Actually, China's central banks, China SEC, and banking regulators, they are all under this committee. So that's number one. Number two, this is the first time China comes up a direct attack on the mining activities. In the past, the recent, like people keep referring to the 2017 regulation. That was mostly about trading. So this is the first time China wants to directly and seriously regulate the mining itself. And the third is about the value of crypto. For the first time, the regulators come up with this strong statement saying cryptos are not supported by real value. And this is a very strong statement, right, for crypto trading, because for the world of cryptocurrency, everything is based on belief. So when you look at these factors, you would say, this is a very serious upgrade of the regulation, and it is more serious than people expected.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. For people who are observers of the space, of which you are one, is this something that people expected, this to be the natural progression of China's stance on cryptocurrencies, or did this go further than people perhaps expected?
Yeah, quite a bit further, John. Yeah, because before the Friday statement, right? Last week we also had a Monday. Monday we got a new kind of a rule coming out from 3 industrial associations in China. The 3 institutions are the Payment and Settlement Association, the Internet Finance Association, and the Banking Association. They come up with a notice saying, all activities relating to cryptos in the financial system must be stopped. Now, this is about a rule coming from 3 industrial associations, right? So they can be referred to as financial regulators, but much lower level comparing to the Financial Stability Committee led by the Vice Premier. So when Monday that notice come out from the 3 industrial associations, most people looked at that as a moderate regulation, and also to some extent just a compliance, a minor compliance step. Actually, that's how people think about it, from a cynical view, because they say, these 3 guys, these 3 industrial associations know it's very hard for the financial intermediaries to track the money related to crypto trading. So for example, if someone uses Alipay, the mobile payment of Alibaba, to move money into crypto exchange, and then later, use the mobile wallet to trade C2C, consumer to consumer, with another individual, it's not even on exchange, right? So It's not even harder for the regulators to track. Yeah. So the cynical view was, the regulators just want to kind of reiterate the prohibition so that they are off the hook if down the road something happens, right? That was Monday, but Friday, when this top level regulators come out with such a strong statement, that is much stronger than people expected.
Why do you think, in terms of timing, why do you think China right now decided it was time to take the next step and crack down even further on crypto? Was it mining and the environmental concerns that have sort of come to the fore, and their pursuit of better environmental conditions there in China? Was it sort of the rise in price and the adoption of Bitcoin? They thought they needed to act now. What do you think the timing was? What was the rationale behind the timing?
You're right, John. All these above. All the factors you mentioned. But first of all, it's definitely coming from the rising speculation in the market. When you look at the China market, actually, it is even more speculative than the US market. Very high levered derivatives contracts are being traded by just average retail investors without much knowledge about the financial market. Now, I give you an example, right? I used to be on the trading market, trading floor of JP Morgan. I was a equity derivatives specialist for a few years. I'm very comfortable with derivatives, right? But if I want to trade derivatives at my Fidelity account, actually I have to go through a few pages of like compliance questions, But in China, within minutes you can open an account, on the crypto trading virtual exchange and trade options on cryptos, and add on 20 times leverage on the option contract, right? So that's a little too much.
We've heard about cases. Heard about cases in Asia of 100x leverage. There's
exactly
tremendous leverage in Asian markets. There's more regulation here in the U.S. around leverage in general, and also as it relates to crypto. But go ahead.
You're absolutely right. I heard about that 100 leverage contract. That means for the underlying asset, it moves 1%. Then either you win big or you'll wipe out.
Right.
So that's number one. And number two, you touched on the environmental consideration. Obviously, crypto mining is a hugely energy intensive process, and China has more than half of global hash power, right? So that means a lot of mining. Now, what's triggered this debate in China was a research report 2 months ago, led done by academic people, led by the Tsinghua University.
Right.
And the Tsinghua University obviously is very close to the government. They come to the conclusion, that report came to the conclusion that Bitcoin mining, may undermine China's effort to control, greenhouse gas emission.
Right.
And several months ago, China had this carbon neutrality 2060 kind of notion started, right? So that's another important consideration. And I guess, a third consideration there is probably related to the digital currency, the central bank digital currency. China is leading is working on the testing of the digital currency. And if everything goes well, the original plan is to launch the digital currency next year around the Winter Olympics time, right? So in connection with the central bank digital currency launch, I think maybe the government wanted to reduce the speculative atmosphere around the digital currency / tokens, so that the sovereign digital currency can come out in a more kind of peaceful and a more normal environment.
Right. They almost wanted to disassociate in people's minds the speculative frenzy around cryptocurrencies as people currently understand it, and the idea of a central bank digital currency, which they don't intend to use for speculative purposes. It's more to bring the financial system into the 21st century using blockchain technology. Is that
absolutely right? That's a great summary. Bet I can do. That's great.
No, I can't do it any better than you, Winston. Yeah. But yeah, as it relates to the digital yuan, what is the progress they've made on that front? What is their strategy around trying to spur adoption of the digital yuan, both domestically and internationally? We had recently a fellow by the name of Michael Greenwald joined us on the Salt Bitcoin Review. He's a former U.S. Treasury official, talking about how China might demand that people use the digital yuan in international trade. They accept it as payment for oil, for example, in the Gulf or things like that. What is their strategy for trying to drive adoption of the digital yuan?
Oh, great question. We can look at this from two aspects, domestically and overseas. Domestically, their strategy is very simple, which is to make the e-yuan, the digital yuan, exactly same as the existing currency. That's their strategy. So they say, okay, this is only about money issuance. So when the e-yuan arrives at the individual's hands, it's just the same as your your regular paper money that you received in the past. And furthermore, when the digital yuan goes into your digital wallet and then you use it in commercial contexts, the user experience is exactly the same as if you are using the third-party mobile payment apps like Alipay of Alibaba or WeChat Pay of Tencent, right? So they really want to design it, make it nothing fancy, nothing magic, and it's exactly the same value, right? Because otherwise, people may turn e-yuan into speculative trading as well. So that's the domestic part. Now the international part, what they're trying to do is to start with emerging markets to try develop trades without the usage of the U.S. dollars, right? So you mentioned about Middle East. So if you think about China, let's say China and Saudi, right? China, Saudi. China needs to buy oil from Saudi, and Saudi needs to import Chinese consumer goods, right? And these two guys will say, why do we need to have U.S. dollar in the middle, right? Why do we have to convert twice?
Petrodollars, it was a big part of U.S. foreign policy strategy early in the alliance with Saudi Arabia. But go ahead.
No, you're on that, right? It used to be petrodollar, right? But now, when you get to the petrodollar, actually, it will be used for other part of the global trades. So for countries that that have trades with China, there's a natural kind of natural context to avoid to go into future trades without the usage of U.S. dollars. And I think the digital yuan, because it's more convenient and it's more transparent, etc. May actually accelerate that process. And according to media, right, several central banks research centers are working with China central banks research centers to develop this framework, which includes Hong Kong, Thailand, and Saudi in the Middle East. And when you think about that, right, Southeast Asia, Thailand, is also a big trade partner with China. So you can see, the usage of U.S. dollars to decrease in those kind of contexts for start.
Right. So Peter Thiel, a prominent venture capitalist who you likely have heard of, he recently surprised a lot of people. He's a pro-Bitcoin, Bitcoin maximalist, self-professed, and he said that we can't discount the possibility that Bitcoin was created by the Chinese government as a financial weapon to try to destroy U.S. dollar hegemony. Do you think that Bitcoin was created by the Chinese government under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto and is a financial weapon aimed at hurting the U.S. dollar's dominance around the world?
Yeah. No, interesting thing. Obviously, lots of people in China said that was just completely crazy statement, right? But I wouldn't say that right away because number one, Peter Thiel's partner RJ Royan, wrote the foreword for my another book, The Hunt for Unicorns. So I definitely know him. Know he's a smart guy, right? And secondly, he also went to Davis Polk, briefly, much brief than I did. So he must be a smart person, right?
Right.
So with that, I wouldn't say that's complete crazy. I think what Peter was trying to say, he said, was that China always wanted to have a third currency to challenge the U.S. dollar instead of using the renminbi itself. Yeah?
Right.
So
like if they're fighting a war, if they're fighting a war, they want the U.S. dollar to have to fight the war on two fronts rather than on a single front.
Okay, yeah, that's possible. That's possible. So Peter was saying, hey, before Bitcoin, right? China was very close to euro, hoping to get euro to challenge the U.S. dollar dominance, right? Obviously, U.S. dollar, euro did not achieve that. Now, Bitcoin, maybe another third currency that China could use, right, to challenge the attractiveness of U.S. dollar globally.
Right.
I think that's what Peter is saying. So I think here you have two ways to look at that. Like number one, this third currency thing, you can always think about these geopolitical issues, from a conspiracy theory, right? But the another aspect, you would say, this is quite impossible, right? Because no matter how powerful China government is domestically, right, it is very hard for China to control, the flow of Bitcoin and the global acceptance of
Right.
Bitcoin. So it's very difficult for China to
I
have
always
any
thought,
meaningful impact.
Yeah, the fact that China obviously has capital controls in place, it always sort of seemed far-fetched to me that they were the ones engineering the rise of Bitcoin, because cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin are tailor-made for evading capital controls if they're not regulated, which obviously China has taken steps to prevent capital flight using cryptocurrencies. But
Right.
do you ever think that China will enter an environment where they might unban Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, where let's say it's 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road, their currency stabilizes, they've onboarded digital yuan into their economy and into the global economy, and they decide that they want to take a friendlier approach to Bitcoin and crypto? Or do you think this is a permanent long-term ban?
Yeah, I think it would depend on many important factors. Number one definitely is the launch of the digital currency of the Central Bank of China. Like the sovereign digital currency. They have to see how popular it is, and frankly, how not only domestically but also globally, because the digital currency may help the internationalization of Chinese currency. And another one is about global regulation. Right now, China looks like the minority, right? Earlier, a few weeks ago, you had the India market webinar, John, right? The Indian side is also considering a ban on crypto trading in India. So if 20 years later, central bank digital currency becomes the mainstream, crypto assets are banned everywhere, I don't think China going to change its mind. But if the digital currency become a established system, and at the same time, the global central banks all find a way to deal with a parallel crypto system at the same time, maybe China will reverse it. Yeah, but I think it all comes down to whether the global central banks, not only China but also global, can live with crypto assets, in the future financial system.
Right. Lael Brainard of the U.S. Federal Reserve came out in the last week talking about research that the U.S. Federal Reserve has been doing on central bank digital currencies, and they plan to issue a white paper this summer that'll be fascinating in terms of the way they start thinking about whether to launch a competing central bank digital currency, digital dollar, and obviously the implications that would have on this entire digital economy arms race, which you've written extensively about. But I want to talk about Bitcoin mining for a second. So you talked about how this latest set of regulations out of China, it banned Bitcoin mining, which was huge news. Again, as you mentioned, anywhere from 50 to 70% of Bitcoin hash rate emanates out of China, and mainly out of three provinces. It's the Xinjiang province, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, the Sichuan province, and Inner Mongolia, which in March they announced they were going to crack down, especially in Inner Mongolia, because almost all Bitcoin mining was coal-powered, and obviously that doesn't fit with their goal to be carbon neutral by 2060. How are these miners reacting to the news? Are they planning to pick up and move their operations elsewhere? How is that going to evolve in terms of the geography and the volume of Bitcoin mining?
Yeah, this relocation talk is happening because there's a crackdown is pretty serious. I heard. It seems like
they're basically telling them to shut off the lights tomorrow, or there's going to be a grace period where they're allowed to transition.
There will be a transition time because the rule is not outright kind of shut down today, and even the new rule came out from in Mongolia yesterday, right? It's still like seeking public comments. Looking at the Inner Mongolia rule, yesterday, it was very serious, right? It will take away all the policy perks to data centers, to data centers projects, and it will limit the electricity supply to those data centers. And thirdly, if people continue mining, guys will be put on the list of dishonesty. This is a part of the China social credit score system.
Yeah, I don't think you want to find yourself on that list. I'm not intimately familiar with China,
but it doesn't sound right? Like a list of dishonesty.
Right.
Yeah. Because it relates to people like a default on their debt, so that they cannot take flights, that kind of thing. Yeah, so it's a pretty serious stuff. So this relocation discussion is really happening, and for some people in North America, they think it's opportunity to connect, the cheap energy, data center infrastructure in the U.S. and the open policy, obviously, right? In the U.S., Canada, etc., to meet with the migration, of Chinese mining equipment.
Well, certainly Elon Musk and Michael Saylor have started the Bitcoin Mining Council, trying to tackle the issue around sustainability, environmental impact, with a view towards making Bitcoin mining greener. Right. And there's some perception that actually the crackdown in China could be positive for Bitcoin, because I think especially in the U.S. and parts of Europe, the concern around ESG investing was certainly becoming very loud, and it was potentially going to be the source of regulation, some believe, in the U.S. But by eliminating Bitcoin mining in China, you're taking what was mainly coal-powered, dirty Bitcoin mining and potentially transitioning it to cleaner mining. Let's say that mining moves to Kazakhstan. Is that an area where they're using coal as well for mining purposes, or they're using greener sources of power?
Well, I actually had a business trip there, right?
I know you go to Kazakhstan a lot.
I did, yeah. I did, and it was related to an agricultural project, in the context of Belt and Road. So I certainly understand a little bit about the country's hydropower, but the country is mostly about oil energy, when you look at the, I worked at CIC, right? When you look at the sovereign fund of Kazakhstan, the capital was mostly coming from oil energy. Yeah. But they have some hydropower as well. But that country is not known for lots of rain.
I have a fun fact for you, Winston, is that we have our SALT conference in the U.S. We have it in the Middle East, most recently in Abu Dhabi. We've done it in Singapore. We've done it in Tokyo. We actually received an approach from officials in Kazakhstan who are looking to build out Kazakhstan as a global financial center about hosting SALT.
You're right. Yeah. Maybe SALT
Kazakhstan will be on the agenda and we'll host it, near some sources of Bitcoin mining. But I want to go to some questions from the audience as we continue the conversation. So Stephen in the chat is asking about that state council. So you mentioned that Liu He is the head of the state council. He's the vice premier, one of the most powerful people in China. So he wants to know more about that state council. How many members does it have? How are they chosen? What was its origins? Could you tell us more about that state council?
Yeah. Now, state council is essentially the central government, right? So the head of the state council is the premier Li, and within state council it can form different committees for different things. Vice Premier Liu He is the vice premier responsible for the financial industry, among others. So actually CIC reports to him. So and all the financial regulators report to him. So essentially the setup is you have Vice Premier Liu He as the chair of that committee, and then the heads of the different ministries are the members of that committee. That's the main kind of composition of that committee. So when this committee makes that decision, that means the ministers under it would have to develop a more detailed implementations relating to that conclusion. So maybe in the coming days, week, we will see some more detailed implementary rules to come out of these ministries.
So to the extent you study this, we have another question in the chat, and it was also a question that I had in the follow-up. But what impact do you think, what could be a significant decline in the global hash rate for Bitcoin, what impact do you think that'll have on the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin blockchain, and how could that impact the value of Bitcoin?
Right. Super important question. First of all, just about the global blockchain infrastructure, right? This may be a kind of stress test, see whether whether the disappearance of a huge hash power, or the disappearance of a major node will have a devastating impact on the global blockchain infrastructure. We've never seen that before. So this, if China shuts down,
this will be an interesting experiment.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of stress testing, right? And of course, right. I saw people who know blockchain much better than I do, keep saying it should be all fine. The stress testing is good because after that,
Well, we did have one, stress test that took place a few weeks ago when there was rolling power outages in China that caused Bitcoin mining in Xinjiang, Sichuan to go offline. And you did see a momentary, pullback in price that was quickly reversed. Yep. But it's certainly something to watch and something that could contribute to future volatility.
And excellent point, right? Because people say it used to be too centralized, right? So maybe this can make the global blockchain infrastructure like more decentralized.
All right, you're a good salesman for Bitcoin here, Winston. We got to get you on our sales team. But so we have a question in the audience, and I think this is relevant to us too. What are your views on Ethereum and other blockchain products? I know sort of the crypto ban in China was wide-reaching. It covers pretty much every crypto asset. But do you have views on Ethereum? The sustainability of that blockchain? At SkyBridge, I think we've teased this before on these talks, is that we are likely going to be providing access to Ether through a product in the coming months. So something for people that are on here to watch out for. And I know, me personally, on the recent dip and a lot of smart people in the space, I know are very bullish on Ethereum, especially given the recent pullback. But do you have views on the Ethereum blockchain and the NFT space? Yeah, no,
this is a very timely topic, right? Until last week, before this, China regulation kicked in, that was all the talk in the Chinese community. Yeah, because in the Chinese community, the main question was, will Ethereum become the main platform going forward? And and the relating to that question was, were there some new chain, especially those based on kind of multi-chain interoperability from day one, replace Ethereum as the future ecosystem foundation. That was the most important discussion within Chinese communities, lasted 12 months, before this regulation kicked in. The background of this is 2020, the keyword in the Chinese blockchain community was multi-chain. Was multi-chain. Yep. So projects like Polkadot, right? Cosmos, those multi-chain construct, become very popular in China, and you see, China Binance exchange, which has China background, right? Also came up with BSC, Binance Smart Chain, as a new kind of multi-chain environment, which took a lot of transaction volume and users, from Ethereum. Yeah. Right. So when you look at this, if you forget about the regulation for a little moment, I think this multi-chain discussion is already there, and when you look at the transaction volume of BSC, year to date, it seems like it has some attractiveness, right? Because it has attracted lots of projects and developers going there. And you mentioned NFT. NFT is another context to ask, whether Ethereum is the environment of the future, right, or some new chain specific for NFT will come up, to provide better.
What does the NFT market look like in China? Obviously, there's a huge explosion of NFTs here in the U.S. They use mainly the Ethereum blockchain. Is there a blockchain of choice in China on which NFTs are sold, or is there not really much of an NFT market in China yet?
No, a big topic there. NFT was also a very big topic. Of course, because of the regulation, it got cooled down. Lots of talk about building up, building up a new ecosystem.
There's plenty of NFTs that don't necessarily involve speculation. So again, Michael Greenwald, who we spoke to recently, he's big into the art market. And so Sotheby's, Christie's, these centralized, big art dealers, right, they have created their own tokens. So they're operating some of their auctions for physical art, even not necessarily even digital art, using digital tokens, because it creates more transparency around settlement, things of that nature. So interesting to see how China develops their view toward things like NFTs. Well,
but the background of this is, right, China has like 3,000 years of history. So everyone's saying there's a lot of unique things there. Right. So you're not short of topics there. But more relating to blockchain, right? There are creative minds thinking about what will be the best chain for NFT. The gas fee on Ethereum is very expensive. For a kind of, if you are like a multi-million NFT, it's not a big issue, right? But if you're just talking about everyday play, it becomes very relevant. So maybe you will see some new public chain idea specific for NFT coming from the China market. It's a very innovative market.
Right. Well, I want to ask you a question about your book, The Digital War. Again, you wrote that or came out with it in 2020. Anthony wrote the foreword to it. It's about, it's a war, but hopefully, doesn't end up being a conflict in the end, and we can learn to collaborate with China on technology initiatives. But how does China in general see financial technology, whether that's related to digital assets and blockchain or just financial technology generally? How important do they see that in this broader financial or digital war with the United States? And the fact that China is a centrally planned economy that gathers a lot of data around its citizens, how has that given it an advantage in that fintech race, if you will?
Wow, $1 trillion question.
You gotta buy the book to learn all about it. But I'll
yeah, exactly.
notes here.
Exactly. If we have this discussion in the fintech context, I would say number one, China views financial stability big time, right? We see this in the current regulation of crypto assets, and we certainly see that in the suspension of the blockbuster IPO of Ant Group, 6 months ago, right? And until today, China still has this capital control, manage bifurcated currency. Actually on this, relating to your earlier question about the policy consideration behind this new regulation, money outflow is also a main issue, right? Because for every Joe in China, they can use crypto trading to convert their domestic money into US dollars without the Chinese authorities' involvement in that transaction. So from China's perspective, right? They still have the from a capital control perspective, from social unrest prevention perspective, and from the overall kind of the government control, right? Fintech is super important in the government thinking. That's why we continue to see China has intensified financial tech related regulations last 12 months.
Right. So last question, obviously nothing that we talk about on here is financial advice, but if you were looking at the Bitcoin market right now, obviously from peak to trough, we had a more than 50% pullback in price. Some of that was due to Elon Musk and the environmental concerns that he triggered. Some of it was related to China Bitcoin regulation. Do you think all this news around China regulating Bitcoin is priced into the market today? Or where do you expect to see Bitcoin head? And we've also shaken out, obviously, a lot of leverage that was in place in the market over the last couple of weeks. But do you think that Bitcoin may have stabilized and priced in that news, or do you think we're not fully comprehending the impact of China's more stringent Bitcoin crackdown?
I think the quick answer is no. Yeah, it's not fully priced in. Several reasons to that. Because first of all, right, get things priced in. Is based on the efficient market hypothesis. So when you think about the crypto market, which is based on belief, right, and there are lots of diehard believers there. So the efficient market theory may not apply because that was based on rational, this kind of conceptual rational person kind of concept. And secondly, even for there are still kind of details to be weighted, coming out of the Chinese regulators. When we talk about the reactions, some of the exchanges have cut some of their services in China, but not everything. So for example, Huobi exchange said, we stop providing derivatives contracts trading to new customers.
Right. Or it's going to be a slow process. They didn't turn off the lights, at midnight last Friday. It's going to be a slow unwinding of the industry there. Right.
Like people are trying to figure out what the details are. Right. As I said, maybe some more specific rules coming from the specific ministries, will provide us more guidance.
And does that? This is a loaded question, but does that apply? Do you think eventually to Hong Kong as well?
I think it has impact already. John, I think you must have noticed, right? The new regulation plan in Hong Kong came out the same week China tightens up the regulation, right? Yeah, but Hong Kong, managed to keep a middle ground, right? They say, okay, we should increase the regulation, but before we do that, we should learn more about the market. So let's do this. We have a legislation plan for the coming months, and in the meantime, we would suggest that.
I'm going to ask you one more question, Winston, too. And Norman in the chat, I think it's a very interesting question.
Okay.
So we're going to go into overtime here. But the Wall Street Journal, I didn't read this article actually, so I need to go find it. But he says they had an article about China and the belief that they might be intentionally trying to destabilize Bitcoin and they might not be done destabilizing it. I don't know if I'm reading that question correctly, but do you
I think that question should go to Peter Thiel.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think this is it? Do you think they've issued this edict? They've said, no more use of cryptocurrencies in the economy for payments, no trading, no use for settlement, anything like that, no mining. You think this is done, or do you think there's further steps they can take and will take to destabilize and crack down on crypto?
No, actually, it's about the steps that they need to take in order to enforce what the statement, what the central government position. On one hand, to crack down mining is fairly easy, because the mine fields, the mine sites are very easy to track down. On the other hand, right, when you say no more crypto trading, money flow in the financial system, you and I, we all know, right? It's a very serious kind of a compliance issue. That even if you wanted to do that, you need to set up that compliance process, right, to track the money. So it's not that easy. Yeah.
A little easier maybe in China than it is in the U.S., which leads us to a broader question about whether even if they wanted to ban Bitcoin in the U.S., whether it would be even feasible. Right. My quick answer to that is no, but it remains to be seen what U.S. regulation looks like related to Bitcoin. But I expect it to be a little less heavy-handed, at least, than it is in China. But Winston Ma, thank you so much for joining us on this week's Salt Bitcoin Review. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Look forward to hopefully seeing you at Salt New York in September. I know it's local for you. We had fun over in Abu Dhabi in 2019. But look forward to seeing you in New York in September. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, John.
All right, everybody, take care.